It's 1943, right in the middle of the World War II. At the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, a US Navy destroyer ship, the USS Eldridge, sits docked, humming with a strange experimental equipment. Massive generators, long electromagnetic coils, a green glow surrounds the hull, and then the ship vanishes. When it returns, the real horror begins. Sailors lie unconscious. Some are missing. Others are screaming, disoriented, burned, or even worse. Several sailors are fused into the ship's steel, arms, legs, and torsos, embedded in bulkheads. One reappears, inside out. This wasn't a weapons test. This was something else. Welcome to Velanox. This is the story of the Philadelphia experiment, where the science may have gone too far. World War II wasn't just fought on the land, sea, or air. It was fought in the lab. Radar ruled the oceans, and Allied convoys were being picked off by German U-boats. So the US Navy considered a bold idea. Make a ship invisible. Not radar invisible. Invisible. Period. The USS Eldridge, a 306-foot or around 96-meter-long destroyer ship escort, was docked on the east coast of the United States at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. It was a sleek, modern vessel with a crew of about 150 men. Fast, agile, built for submarine defense. It became the test subject. The theory was loosely tied to Albert Einstein's unfinished unified field theory, a hypothetical framework to merge gravity and electromagnetism. If successful, it might allow energy and possibly even light to bend around a solid object. On October 28, 1943, the Eldridge was outfitted with high-voltage generators, electromagnetic coils, and experimental control systems. The test began. A low-frequency hum filled the air. A green mist developed around the hull. The ship began to shimmer, like a mirage over a hot pavement. Eyewitnesses on nearby vessels reported sudden nausea, dizziness, and strange metallic taste in their mouth. Some said the water rippled in unnatural patterns, as if something underneath the ship was pushing against the surface, and then gone. The Eldridge disappeared from view, from radar, from existence, and just as suddenly it returned. But something was wrong. The Eldridge was not the same anymore. Some of its crew were unconscious, others were frozen mid-air, eyes open but not blinking. Several were missing, and then the most bizarre sight of them all. Men stuck, or more accurately, fused into the ship's steel decks. Arms poking out of the bulkheads. One sailor's face was embedded in a wall, eyes wide open. Another was fused chest first into a stairwell, still breathing for several minutes. One sailor reportedly reappeared with his insides mirrored. Another with burns covering 100% of his body. And one vanished entirely, only to reappear weeks later, alive but unable to speak. Some who survived were never the same. One man stared at walls for days. Another would violently react if touched by anything metal. And then there were the dreams. Crew from nearby ships, those anchored within visual range, began experiencing strange symptoms weeks later. Sleep paralysis, nosebleeds, hallucinations. One officer claimed he saw the Eldridge every night in his dreams, floating upside down. Another reported shadowy figure standing at the foot of his bunk, whispered in Morse code. He later had a breakdown and was medically discharged. Some sailors said they started dreaming of events that hadn't happened yet, freak accidents, deaths, or deployments they weren't part of. For over a decade after the supposed incident, nothing. No press, no whistleblowers, just silence. Then, in 1955, something odd arrived at the home of a man named Morris K. Jessup. Jessup wasn't a conspiracy nut. He was a respected astrophysicist and the author of The Case of the UFO, a book exploring the possibilities of advanced propulsion and aerial phenomena. He had master's degree in astronomy. His writing was speculative, but grounded in science. That's what made the letter he received so strange. It was from someone calling himself Carlos Allende. But later, investigations revealed the sender's real name was Carl Meredith Allen, a former merchant marine. Allen claimed he had served aboard the SS Andrew Forsyth, a ship stationed near the USS Eldridge in October 1943. In the letter, he described what he claimed to have personally witnessed: the green fog, the vanishing ships, and the screams that followed. Jessup was intrigued but skeptical. Then Allen sent more letters. In them, he claimed the experiment didn't just make the ship disappear, it pulled the crew out of time and space. The sailors went mad. This pushed Jessup deeper into obsession. He told close friends he was being followed, that his phone lines were tapped, that people were watching his home. Some believed he was unraveling. Others thought he was onto something real. On April 20th, 1959, Morris K. Jessup was found dead inside his car. A hose had been rigged from the exhaust into the cabin, and engine was still running. His death was ruled as a suicide. He had just arranged a meeting with a colleague to discuss a new breakthrough he claimed to have made about the Eldridge case. He never showed. There was no note, no goodbye, just the silence. To some, Jessup's death was a mental health tragedy. To others, it was something more chilling, a silencing. After that, the story went underground again. So, what was the Philadelphia experiment? The most grounded theory? Degaussing. During World War II, ships were wrapped in electrical cables and pulsed with current to reduce the magnetic signatures. These tests could produce static, glowing discharges, strange fog, and even headaches or hallucinations. Combine that with the fact that there's an inland waterway connecting Philadelphia and Norfolk, and it's possible that the Eldridge did travel, just maybe not with a teleportation. But there's a darker theory, that the Navy conducted a psychological warfare experiment, testing how human minds reacted to high-intensity magnetic fields. They may have used the Eldridge as a lab, exposing the crew to electromagnetic pulses to simulate stress, fear, or hallucinations. And then there's the theory that teleportation actually worked. That the unified field theory was tested and for a moment succeeded. The ship vanished, entered something else, and came back with some consequences. Some say that Eldridge came back slightly wrong, dimensions off by a few inches. others claim it never truly came back at all. So what really happened in 1943? Was it a misunderstood field test? A hallucination-inducing experiment on unsuspecting sailors? Or did a warship slip between dimensions and return carrying something it shouldn't have? The USS Eldridge is gone, and the logs are sealed. The crew? Silent. And the truth? Maybe it disappeared too. All that remains is the story. If this story of hidden tech, sealed records, and broken reality pulled you in, stay around and join us next time here on Velanox, because sometimes the real danger isn't what we can see, it's what we can't.